G-Roll Electronic Productions, baby.
Welcome. I'm JJ, the psychotherapist. Thanks for joining me today. It's been a while since I've been live. Decided to go live today on Labor Day. Um, got a little bit of news to cover today. Trying to get back to live streaming again, so get my feet wet a little bit. Before we get started, go ahead and hit that like button. Share this out so we can get this information out there. Subscribe if you're not already a subscriber, and hit that alarm bell so you know when I'm putting out new stuff. Also, check out my link tree in the description. It has a link to my Patreon where I talk about things I can't talk about here. And there's also a link to my Twitter where I'm very active on Twitter now. I just started being active on Instagram now. I got a idea of what I want to do with my Instagram. So follow me on Instagram if you're not following me yet. Let's build up my Instagram over there. What I'm doing is I'm capturing like screenshots of news and putting a little synopsis, a little summary in there of what's actually going on. I'm gonna start doing more and more of that on my Instagram. If you want like a little 1 minute read or a little 30-second read of stuff of that's important that's going on, go ahead and follow me there on Instagram where you can stay informed there. So check that out. All right, let's talk about this news now. Let's start off with this first article I wanna go over. General Mark Milley still silent after Marines used in Biden speech attacking MAGA Republicans. Excuse me. If you were under a rock and don't know what this is referring to, is that the speech that Biden had put out. Was it Thursday or Friday? I think it was Thursday. The speech where he was basically attacking anyone that was a Republican. He started off by saying, MAGA Republicans and, and then just basically saying all Republicans are evil, basically, is what he was saying during that speech. And he kind of pulled back a little bit because of the backlash. Twitter, conservative Twitter was going off about it. And even some liberals were like, wait a minute, okay, you're taking it too far. You're blaming like basically 74, 75 million people that voted for Trump. You're basically calling them terrorists, and that's what he did. So it was a backlash about it. In general, Mark Milley, he said nothing about it, even though when Trump was walking with Marines to the church, he spoke out against that and said, hey, the military don't need to be used about like that. But in the background of Biden's speech, he had two Marines in the background while he was bashing basically half of America, and Milley didn't say anything about it. Basically, is what this article is talking about. All right, so let's check it out. General Mark Milley, chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, and one of the most leftist, I would add, one of the most leftist generals we ever had. He's a social justice warrior, woke type of a general. It's like the wokest of generals we ever had, I believe. But has yet to comment on the use or abuse of Marines in President Joe Biden's speech Thursday, attacking, quote, MAGA Republicans after Milley complained about Trump's march across Lafayette Square. Biden delivered a diatribe against Donald Trump and the political opposition in general, standing in front of Independence Hall as it was bathed in red light and flanked by Marines who had been deliberately positioned, the White House said in staging the address. So they admitted that they deliberately put these two Marines here in the background. And look at the red here. I mean, does this not remind you of any type of despot that you've seen in the movies portrayed? And the red background and just, oh my gosh, it's just terrible. Like, the optics of this alone is terrible. And who is the staffer that suggested this is what I want to know. Who came up with this? Give me 1 second. Sorry. I got... All right, hold on 1 second. Let me pull up. I'm trying to pull up something on my phone really quick. All right. Um. So, all right, just pulling something up to make sure I can pulling up my phone so I can see if people are commenting. Don't want to miss your comments. All right. In 2020, Milley joined Trump in a march across Lafayette Square in front of the White House um, to a church that had been burned by Black Lives Matter. It was a he did actually walk with him. I forgot. I thought he didn't. I know he commented afterwards though, but it was a demonstration that the elected government was still in charge of the country, not the mob. But Democrats and the media falsely claimed that Trump had used tear gas to clear protesters from the park for a photo op, a claim debunked by an official investigation, and Milley issued a statement in which he apologized for his presence in uniform. He goes on to say, as many of you saw the result of the photograph of me at Lafayette Square last week, that sparked a national debate about the role of the military in civil society. I should not have been there. My presence in that moment and in that environment created a perception of the military involved in domestic politics. As a commissioned uniformed officer, it was a mistake that I have learned from, and I sincerely hope we all can learn from. But evidently, you didn't learn from this because you allowed the Marines to sit in the background of this, and you're not speaking anything about it, Milley. How come you only do it when conservatives do something like this? That's my question. Milley later reportedly told his staff that he intended to fight Trump from the inside. He also called his Chinese counterpart to tell him that Trump did not intend to attack China in the aftermath of the January 6th riot. So why is he communicating this with China? I remember when Milley did this. Why would he communicate this to China? That's not your job, Milley. But under the Biden administration, Milley went along with plans to expel extremists and encourage members of the armed forces to read left-wing texts and told Congress he wanted to understand white rage, whatever that is. He also defended the military's decision to expel members who refused the stupid 19 jab, with giving interviews to authors of books criticizing Trump. Milley presided over the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan last August, and we all know about the Afghanistan debacle there, in which hundreds of Americans and billions of dollars in military equipment were abandoned and 13 soldiers died. It's just sickening. Milley's silence on Biden's use of the Marines for a political speech, and particularly aggressive one, has been noted by observers, including constitutional scholar Jonathan Turley. And Turley tweeted out, likewise, General Milley apologized for being in a photo with the president in front of St. John's, declaring my presence in the moment and in that environment created a perception of military involvement in domestic politics. Yet, Milley has said nothing about supplying not just the Marine band, but Marines to stand directly behind Biden at a political speech as he denounced his political opponents as threats to democracy and was called a semi-fascist movement. And it is sickening that Milley got away with that. It makes no sense. But it's par for the course. We're used to this. This is what we expect from this administration and the leftists that goes along with it. All right, let's move on to the next article I got here. Federal judge grants Trump petition for special master review of raid files, and I think this is a big deal for someone from someone on the outside to look at this. Hopefully, it's someone that's actually can be objective in this situation. Hopefully, it's not a leftist, but I'm not gonna hold my breath to that, because we saw what they did with the whole Mueller investigation, but they really didn't have anything. That's why they couldn't do anything to Trump with the whole Mueller investigation. But I have a sneaky suspicion that it's going to be a leftist that's going to be in charge of this, and they are not going to be objective. But a federal judge on Monday granted former President Donald Trump's petition for an independent court-selected arbiter to sift through the documents seized from Mar-a-Lago, temporarily blocking the government from probing the contents, except for national security considerations until the assessment is complete. intelligence agencies will be permitted to continue their damage assessment of the classified documents recovered from the property, with the goal of determining whether there is, quote, a potential risk to national security that would result from the disclosure of the relevant documents, the judge ruled. Judge Aline Conan's Monday decision comes after she announced last month that she had preliminary intent to appoint a special master or a representative of the court who would single out the privileged material from the seized evidence, citing the, quote, exceptional circumstances presented in the case. Trump filed the motion for a special master in late August, arguing that a third-party review is necessary because the FBI raid of his home so close to the 2020 midterm elections, quote, involved political calculations aimed at diminishing the leading voice in the Republican Party, President Trump. He insisted that he had been in discussions with the government for months to return records he took from the White House to the National Archives. But I mean, we all know that the president has the ultimate authority on this. I can't believe, like they keep bringing up Hillary. It's different from Hillary, because Hillary was not the president of the United States. She didn't have the authority to put stuff on her personal server. She didn't have the authority to smash and bleach bit these hard drives and all the stuff she tried to get rid of and got away with it. So I mean, that just further shows the two-tier system that we have here. The prosecutors for the government contend that Trump is making false claims that the documents belong to him when they are in fact government property. They also said a special master was redundant because the Justice Department has a filter team. We don't trust the Justice Department, but they have a filter team that determines if any confiscated material should be shielded from government scrutiny under Trump's attorney-client privilege. Cannon ordered the parties to submit by September 9th a joint filing, including a list of possible people to fill the special master role, as well as a draft order outlining the special master's duty and limitations, according to the court filings obtained by CNBC. While the judge said she found no compelling showing of callous disregard for Trump's constitutional rights, yeah, right, she suggested that the mere optics of a former president's home being searched could potentially prejudice the investigation against him. Quote, as a function of the plaintiff's former position as president of the United States, the stigma associated with the subject's seizure is in a league of its own, Cannon wrote. No joke, because there's no precedent for this. But, quote, a future indictment based to any degree on property that ought to be returned would result in perpetual harm of decency, different order of magnitude. Decidedly different order of magnitude. Trump has also persuasively argued, Cannon wrote, that a special master review may be his only legal recourse while he claims that the government took his property. She reiterated that the court has taken into account, quote, undeniably unprecedented nature of the search of a former president's residence and the fact that Trump has had to depend on negotiations with the Biden administration in power to secure ownership and exchange of documents. So we'll see what's gonna come of this. I don't trust the Justice Department, so we'll see what this special master, who is the special master, and what comes out of this. I can't wait to see, but I'm not gonna get my hopes up. I don't trust any of these people that's in government right now. All right, and this is from the Gateway Pundit. Biden lashes out at MAGA Republicans in Labor Day speech. This weekend what was it, Friday or Saturday? I think he came out when they asked him about it. He backtracked and he was like, "Well, I'm not talking about all of people that voted for Trump. I'm just talking about the small number of extremists that's on the right." Basically, is what he was saying. But now he's doubling down. So it's this bipolar stuff. Like first, oh no, I didn't really say that. No, now he's doubling down and it's back and forth. So I don't know if it has anything. I don't know who is pulling this guy's string, but he has everyone confused. Henry Mayer Festival Park That's where he was at when he gave this new Labor Day speech. It was a labor fest, and the crowd size was not impressive. The labor unions could barely fill the stands. This is what the crowd looked like 20 minutes before Biden was shuffled out. Um, so here they got a video here. The crowd beginning to fill in here. So let's play this and see what's going on here. And then we have Trump having rallies where he fills stadiums. We see the difference, but he got all these millions of votes though. I don't know. I don't get it. But Biden continued his attacks on Trump, Trump supporters and Trump allies. Hold on, let me enlarge this a little bit. I got it small here. I'm blind, so I got to enlarge it. All right, quote, not every Republican is a MAGA Republican, Biden said, echoing his Moloch speech. But the extreme MAGA Republicans in Congress have chosen to go backwards, full of anger, violence, hate, and division. But together we can and we must choose a different path. So let's check out what he has to say.
I want to be very clear up front. Not every Republican is a MAGA Republican. Not every Republican embraces that extreme ideology. I know because I've been able to work with mainstream Republicans my whole career. But the extreme MAGA Republicans in Congress have chosen to go backwards, full of anger, violence, hate, and division. But together, we can and we must choose a different path. Forward. No, I really mean it. We have to. A future of unity, of hope, of optimism. We're going to choose to build a better America. A better America.
So if you agree with him, you're all right. You're not extremist. But if you disagree with him, then you're an extremist. That's how you differentiate. And we're going to talk about that. Well, let's talk about that now, how they differentiate between who, if you're extremist or not. But before we get to that, Joe Biden threatened millions of Trump supporters last week while he was flanked by 2 U.S. Marines. And this is the infamous picture here. Doesn't he look like a despot? Doesn't he look like a dictator, an evil dictator here? And Biden continued to divide the nation on Labor Day with yet another angry speech. He just looks like an angry old man here. All right, let's talk about Jean-Pierre real quick. Jean-Pierre, Karine Jean-Pierre says anyone who disagrees with the majority is by definition an extremist. That is not the definition of an extremist. That is not the definition of an extremist. That doesn't make any sense. An extremist. Oh, we'll get into that in a minute. So basically, if you disagree, you're an extremist, is what they're saying. Apparently, if you disagree with the agenda of President Joe Biden and the Democrats, you are by definition an extremist. So let's just for giggles, let's see the definition of an extremist real quick. Let's just check this out. Let's check out, just for giggles, the definition of extremist. A person who holds extreme or fanatical political or religious views, especially one who resorts to or advocates extreme action. So that is the definition of extremism. Extremism is the quality or state of being extreme. So that doesn't say if you disagree with someone, you're an extremist. That is not the definition, but that is the left's definition. This is the word from White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre, who speaks with the White House. She was asked about the president's divisive speech last week and what is considered an extremist, and her answer is stunning. So I'm just going to skip down to, I thought they showed the actual, I thought I had a clip of the actual interview here, but I guess not. So I'm just going to read off what she said then. She said, quote, I mean, he was very clear. I mean, he was very clear. Um, he was very clear that MAGA Republicans in Congress have an agenda that is extreme, and that's what you hear from them. The national ban on abortions is extreme, and also it's not in line with the majority of Americans. The majority of Americans are. It is just not. It is taking away people's rights. It's taking away freedoms from. Um, it's taking away people's freedoms. She said. So let me get this straight. By killing a baby, that is how that is freedom. Being able to take to delete a child from this planet is freedom in her eyes. She goes on to say, and you know he doesn't. He believes that is an extreme agenda. You've heard that from him directly. I don't even need to confirm that from here. He's actually talked about how extreme it is. It's crazy. It's crazy. So let's take a look at what she's saying now. What she's saying now. So check this out.
And again, we see majority of Americans who disagree. And so when you are not with where majority of Americans are, then, you know, that is extreme. That is an extreme way of thinking.
That is not extreme. So being a contrarian, going against the grain, in their eyes is extreme. I don't. This makes no sense. This makes no sense. But that's the left for you. If you don't agree, then you are an extremist. So if that's the barometer now, then what about the silent majority? What about the people that's not talking about this, but they don't agree with anything of what's going on right now? Are they considered extremists too? Even though they are the majority, though. I mean, this is crazy. So all right, let's talk about what we got next here. Why are conservatives happier than liberals? And this is a great study. I find fascinating, but I definitely find this to be true. Anecdotally, from what I see in practice, it's definitely true. I definitely have more liberals in clients than I do conservative clients. Um, let's see, and this is from Real Clear Science, by way of WND WorldNet Daily. It may be one of the most surefire findings in all of social psychology, repeatedly replicated over almost 5 decades of study. So it's tons of information about this. I've been reading about this for years. It's kind of common knowledge. A lot of people try to say, well, if you're liberal, you're more likely to see a therapist. That's why you're more likely to be diagnosed and blase blase. I don't think that's the case. American conservatives say they are much happier than American liberals. They also report greater meaning and purpose in their lives and higher overall life satisfaction. These links are so solidly evidenced that, for the most part, modern social scientists simply try to explain them. That's how I know. I already know their arguments to try to explain them. Because it's been studied for so long, and they got to come up with something to explain this. They've put forth numerous possible explanations. There are a couple of clear contributors to point out at first. Marriage tends to make people happier, and conservatives are more likely to be married. Religious beliefs is also linked to happiness. I've written papers on that fact. But religious beliefs is also linked to happiness, and conservatives tend to be more religious. But these explanations don't account for the entire gap, which equates to about a half point on a 4-point scale. They're talking about the Likert scale. That's the scale we use for stuff like this. A sizable happiness divide. Social psychologist Jamie Napier, program head of psychology at NYU Abu Dhabi, has conducted research suggesting that the views about inequality play a role. Quote, one of the biggest correlates with happiness in our survey was the belief of a meritocracy, which is the belief that anybody who works hard can make it, she told PBS. That was the biggest predicator of happiness. That was also one of the biggest predicators of political ideology. So the conservatives were much higher on these meritocratic uh, beliefs than liberals are. And I talk about this a lot. About media meritocracy. How on merit. Everything should be based on merit. How hard you work. You get out of what you put in. But the left don't believe in that. They believe in so-called equity. Everyone needs to be treated the same. So even if you don't do, if you lazy and you don't work hard, you still should be making the same amount of money as people that work hard. When that's not the case, you get out of it. It's about production. You get out of stuff what you put in. It's about working hard. It's about what you know. And again, the left don't believe in any of that. So that's why they're so unhappy. To paraphrase, conservatives are less concerned with equality of outcomes and more concerned with equality of opportunity. So basically, everyone should be able to have the same opportunity. But that doesn't mean you have the same outcome. Everyone is not equal to the same outcome because everyone don't put forth the same effort. It's simple as that, but leftists don't see it that way. While American liberals are depressed by inequalities in society, conservatives are okay with them provided that everyone has roughly the same opportunities to succeed. The latter is more rosy and empowering view than the deterministic former. Two other studies explore a more surprising contributor, neuroticism, typically defined as a tendency toward anxiety, depression, self-doubt, and other negative feelings. Surveyed conservatives consistently scored lower in neuroticism than surveyed liberals. In 2011, psychologists at the University of Florida and University of Toronto conducted 4 studies aiming to find whether conservatives are more positively adjusted than liberals. They found that conservatives, quote, express greater personal agency, more positive outlook, more transient moral beliefs, and a generalized belief in fairness compared to liberals. And that's what I've been saying from get-go. They really don't believe in fairness. They're really not the just look at some of the stuff they be posting online. All you got to do is go to the Twitter cesspool and you can see the crazy ideology that they believe in. There have been a few studies that attempt to rain on conservatives' happiness parade, and one scientist proposed that conservatives might simply be more inclined to provide socially desirable answers to surveys than liberals. I mean that's called test taker bias. You don't really that really don't account for much in most studies. Societal expectation expects you to be happy, and so conservatives say they are. In another, researchers found that while conservatives certainly report more happy. I'm sorry, struggling today. Conservatives certainly report being more happy than liberals. Liberals tend to display more signs of happiness, as evidenced by uploading more smiling photos on LinkedIn and posting more positive tweets on Twitter. So maybe conservatives just think they're happier or judge happiness differently. That don't make any sense. People are gonna post their good stuff more often anyway than negative stuff anyway. That's just how social media works. So you can't really count social media anyway. But regardless, the gap remains. So if you need some cheering up, maybe turn to a conservative friend rather than a liberal one. I like that. That's very interesting. I love studies like that. Y'all know I'm a big person on research and studies. And this is the last little thing I'm going to talk about today. Flashback. CBS News mocked Trump for warning of German reliance on Russian oil. And oil is going to go up because Russia is like, you know what? I'm turning off the tap. Europe, y'all not going to get this oil. And Trump warned them about this, warned them about their dependence on oil, and they didn't want to listen. And now look, the price of oil is crazy in Europe. It's going to go up. You know, winters is right around the corner, and they're going to have to use that oil for heating, and they're going to be struggling because they don't have the oil. I think I seen some numbers. I think like Germany accounts for, I think I've read like 60% of their oil comes from Russia, I believe. Might want to fact check me on that, but I know it's somewhere near that. So what are you going to do when what are they going to do now that Russia decides to turn off the tap? I mean, y'all put yourselves in this, and Trump warned you about it. So in 2018, President Trump spoke before the United Nations General Assembly and specifically warned Germany about relying on Russia for their natural gas. At the time, not only did the German delegation appear to laugh at Trump, but much of the media joined in the mirth. And I remember they were I couldn't believe it. They were like laughing. Look at this picture here. They were laughing at this dude for warning them. But who's laughing now? They're not laughing now. I guarantee they're not laughing now. Among those news organizations was CBS News, which joined in the mockery with this. September 25th, 2018 article by Kylie Atwood. Why were UN diplomats laughing at Trump? When Trump took to the world stage at the United Nations General Assembly on Tuesday, he unintentionally drew laughter from diplomats in the room. In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished almost more than any other administration in the history of our country, Mr. Trump said. And that's true. And that was true. Look, we were energy independent for the first time ever. And Biden got in and ruined all that. But a slow rumble of laughter spread through the chambers. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay. Mr. Trump said in response, yes, it was very funny to those delegates and to CBS, but that laughter was followed up by yet more due to Trump's prophetic warning to Germany. So I'm going to play the clip here.
Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are committed to maintaining our independence from the encroachment of expansionist foreign powers. It has been the formal policy of our country since President Monroe that we reject the interference of foreign nations in this hemisphere and in our own affairs.
And they laughed at him for that. Later, the president scolded Germany for relying on Russia. Quote, Germany will become totally dependent on Russian energy if it does not immediately change course, Mr. Trump said. Here in the Western Hemisphere, we are committed to maintaining our independence from the encroachment of expansionist foreign powers. Even as he took a swipe at them, German diplomats were seen laughing in the audience. And here is Atwood concluding analysis. In the case of Germany and Russia, Mr. Trump was referring to the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and expansion to an already existing natural gas pipeline. The permits have been issued, however, and experts say it would be hard to see anything that could stop it at this point. I mean, it's this article is not aging well, because that's exactly what Putin did. He stopped it. And while Germany will have an increased reliance on Russia, natural gas makes up about 25% of Germany's energy consumption. It's 25%. I thought I read 60% somewhere. So saying that the country will become totally dependent on Russia is a stretch. So I'm wondering, how does Atwood feel now? I really wish I could interview Atwood about this. So how did that work out? Dependence doesn't need to be total to create a serious squeeze. Let us flash forward to a very different take on this by CBS News on September 2nd, 2022. As Russia turns off the gas, can Germany and its EU neighbors stay warm this winter? You see the difference now? And I talked about this when they was laughing at Trump about this. I was like, I don't understand how this is funny. He's trying to help Europe out. He's trying to help them out, and they're laughing at him. Well, Berlin, Russia stopped delivering gas through Nord Stream 1 pipeline that supplies much of Western Europe on Wednesday, claiming a 2-day shutoff was necessary for maintenance work. On Friday, just hours before it was due to reopen, Russia's state-owned company Gazprom said repairs now require it to suspend further operation. And there's nothing they can do about it. If they say they gotta repair it, then they gotta. You can't argue with them on it. You can't like say, well, you're lying. The move will pile pressure on the continent's largest economy as it prepares for a winter of energy rationing that could squeeze households and German industry. So while gas security may not be an immediate concern for the governments of Europe this winter, even if Russia keeps the tap turned off, many people and businesses will struggle to afford the fuel that is available. It's going to be expensive. I don't know what the price is going to look like, but I know it's going to be expensive. So who's laughing now? The German UN delegation, CBS News, Kylie Atwood? Oh, the latter moved to CNN, where she is now a national security correspondent. Can we expect more belly laughs from her? This is crazy. Yeah, but this is the crazy stuff we got going on right now. Before I end it here, let me just check my feed and see if anything major is going on right now. Let's see. All right. The EU makes its peace with economic war, and the global neoliberal system is collapsing around us. Yes, it is. Russia sanctions Ben Stiller and Sean Penn in new blacklist of 25 Americans. Nobody really care about them anyway. Let's go over here to just the news. Virginia Governor Youngkin to travel to Maine to endorse GOP gubernatorial candidate. Let's see. Red State. It looks like Adam Kissinger has finally bitten off more than he could chew. Yeah, I think that's it for now. If anything else important come out, I'll report on it. I'll put it on. I'll do a video on it here on YouTube. Also follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Instagram. I think what I'm doing over there on Instagram is going to be really dope. So follow me there, and especially if you don't like reading these long articles that I read hundreds of articles every day. If you don't like, reading these long articles, I totally understand that. Follow me on Instagram, where I'll put the most important news that I come across. I'll post them on Instagram and have a little synopsis, a little blurbs that'll take you just 30 seconds to a minute to read, and you'll be informed there. So, and like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. Leave your comments down below, and check out democrepublics.com for the latest in news. Until next time, peace.